webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you for checking in with the shortcuts, the Monday classroom. Today is actually a redo on using the point of sale. Sorry for the late start. I'm going to give this just a few more seconds to make sure that any stragglers are getting their cups of coffee and their notes and they can join us. So in just a few moments, we're going to begin the Monday classroom session. Again, this is a repeat on shortcuts, specifically using the point of sale. So in just a few moments, we will begin today's classroom session. Okay, I think we're ready to begin. So today I'm actually trying out a different microphone. Hopefully everybody can hear me correctly. On the right side, we should have a question and a chat window. So if you need to ask questions, you can go ahead and make a statement there. I should be able to see it. Let me bring up my slides. There we go. Okay. So thank you for joining us for our Monday classroom session. Today is actually a repeat of using the point of sale in the shortcut system. So if you didn't get a chance to attend last time, here's your chance. Plus, I'm going to focus on a couple of specific sections we didn't get a chance to talk about last week. So this presentation is going to be a dense one. So we want to go mortar right through it. So similar to others, the webinar is approximately 30 minutes plus a little time for questions and answers. My microphone is turned on. Everybody else has been muted. So hopefully you can hear me. If not, go ahead and turn up your speakers. We are recording this session. So at the end of the presentation, we will be able to send you a copy. And of course, if you have any follow-up questions, you can always reach us on our email or on our Facebook page. We do check that. We do respond to you there. So let's begin. So today's learning outcomes. How to use the actual point of sale. How should you use the start of day or end of day? How to check out customers, including walk-ins and any returning customers. If you have to issue a refund. If you sell a series of services or gift certificates, how does that work? And of course, tracking professional use products. Now, you should absolutely know the basics. These are super important. So the point of sale screen is really divided into three rows, a top, a middle, and a bottom row. So the top row allows you to select your customers. The middle row is where you add or edit services, products, or sundry. And the bottom row is where you select your payment types if you do not have an integrated credit card system, where you apply your tip, and of course, how you press the end sale button. So performing the start of day. If you have a front desk or if you're a manager and you want to make sure that you always count your money in the morning, then you perform a start of day and tell shortcuts how much are you beginning with that specific day. This also includes if on any certain day you decide to change the float amount. So let's say most of the week you start with $100, but on weekends you go to $200. So when you perform the start of day, this is how that happens. If you're tracking your cash, and this is again before you perform your start of day, you can press the no sale button and open your cash register so you can count your money before you confirm it. The other way you track your cash movement is during the middle of the day. If for whatever reason, let's say in a scenario, every customer is paying in cash and you end up with $1,000 over your usual float, well, perhaps you don't want to have all of that cash sitting in your register until the end of the day. You can actually tell Shortcuts, I'm going to transfer money out, and then in the middle of the afternoon, perhaps you're going to deposit $700 or $800. So in this way, Shortcuts doesn't expect that money to be there when you do your end of day count at the end of each day. And of course, vice versa. If you are starting to run low on change, you can tell Shortcuts, I just ran to the bank and I'm adding $100 extra into my register so I don't run out. So you always want to be able to manage any cash transfers, and that is accessible under the No Sale button at the bottom of the point of sale screen. This includes working with petty cash. If you go to No Sale and you take petty cash, $20 for example, before the end of the business day, you need to tell Shortcuts, I'm going to return petty cash, or in this case, the change. Now, whether you use $1 or all $20 from your petty cash, you should record it in Shortcuts so that your end of day count is accurate. So we can actually give an example of that in practice. So it's very important that any cash that goes in and out after you perform your end of day is properly being tracked. The other way you can actually deal with petty cash is in your point of sale. You can actually, let's say, on the way to work, you actually stop by the beauty supply. You picked up a few things out of your own pocket and you're going to be reimbursed from the register. So you could go to the point of sale, go to the client screen and choose the customer marked #expense and tell Shortcuts, what did you spend your money on? And then you can take that cash out of the register and Shortcuts will record it in its logs. So we're going to pause on this one, and we're just going to look a little bit at actually doing some petty cash and doing a start of day. So I'm going to pause the slideshow, and we're going into the actual Shortcuts point of sale. So again, the point of sale screen is divided into a top, middle, and bottom row. On the bottom row, on the bottom right corner, this is where you have the no sale option. And this is where you can tell Shortcuts, I want to open my register, count my money, or taking petty cash or making an adjustment after the fact. Transfer money in, transfer money out. On the very top right corner, the first button you go to in the morning if you're doing a start of day is the transactions button. And at the bottom, you're going to start your day. So in my register, I believe I have $100 as the default. I probably forgot to do an end of day for my last trading session. So hold on just a moment. We were doing a practice session here. So bear with me just a moment. Okay, so a start of day, I'm confirming today I have $100 in my register. If today I was going to start with 200, this is where I would change that amount. But I will keep 100 in the register. Once I perform my start of day, Shortcuts is now going to allow me to check customers in or out. So those petty cash movements I was mentioning on the bottom right corner. If I need to take $20 because later today I'm going to run to the store to buy something, this is where I would press Take Petty Cash. Now, all of the buttons, all of the features that I'm showing today, these are all password protected. So whoever has a security pin and whoever has the appropriate level of permission will be the only ones allowed to do this. So it's not just that any employee can do a start of day or any employee can take petty cash. It's only those that have permission to do so. And Shortcuts will always record who that specific employee is. So I just took $20. I ran to the local beauty supply and I came back. When I pressed no sale, Now I have the ability to return my petty cash. For the sake of training, I turned off security, so it says the employee is unknown. Normally it says my name. So I'll say I'm about to return the $20 or tell Shortcuts how did I spend it. So in this particular case, I actually went and I got some hair accessories. How much did I spend on hair accessories? $6. What else did I buy with that money? I got a couple of professional products. I spent $10. And then Shortcuts asked me, did I buy anything else with that petty cash? No, that's really all I bought. When I press done, if you look at the bottom of the screen, Shortcuts expects me to return $4 change out of those 20 that I took earlier. So I will press end sale, and Shortcuts will ask me, okay, please return my change, the $4, and deposit any receipts. So I have that recorded in my history. So if you take petty cash before the end of the day, make sure you return the change. Otherwise, Shortcuts is going to have a miscount when you're doing your end of day. It'll say, hey, you still have some money outstanding. Where did it go? So just remember that. If you spend your own money out of pocket and you're going to be reimbursed from the point of sale when you come in, this is where you would go to the clients button on the top left corner, and you notice there is a customer called #expense. So you can press expense and then tell Shortcuts, okay, what did you buy? On my way in, I also bought some professional products and I spent $4. So now Shortcuts will allow me to press end sale. The register will pop open and it will say, okay, go ahead and take your $4. I'm reimbursing your expense. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. So let's jump back to our presentation. So checking out a customer. There's actually multiple ways to check out a client. There's at least 3 different ways. If you're in the appointment book screen, you right-click on an appointment and you go to checkout. If you are in the actual point of sale screen, you can use the pull-down menu and choose that customer's name. And once you're in the point of sale screen, if you have a regular customer that comes in, they didn't have an appointment, but maybe they're buying a product, you can also choose their name from the client list. So multiple ways to bring a customer into the actual point of sale. So once a customer is in the point of sale screen, you can update those transaction details. Choose which employee performed the service. You can always update that. You can update the service price if you have permission to do that, if your Shortcuts allows you to do that. If the customer is receiving a discount on a service or product, when you press that button, Shortcuts will give you the list of reasons and how much they're worth for applying a discount. Every time you're using these features, these functions in Shortcuts, it is being recorded by the system. So at the end of the day, the owner or the manager can run a report and say, who changed the employee that got permission for a service or that performed a service? Who changed the price for the service at the point of sale? Who gave a discount and how much was it worth? Everything is being recorded by the system. So there's no way that any employee can just make changes willy-nilly. Those are all protected by security and being recorded. So adding items into the point of sale. In the point of sale screen, you have a bunch of blank rows. As soon as you select a blank row, Shortcuts will ask you, who's the employee that should get credit for this upsell? Did the customer buy a product, a service, or a sundry? So if you're adding a product to a transaction, if you choose product, you can search for the company and search for the line. If you have a barcode scanner at your business and if you've recorded all of your barcodes, you don't even have to click one of the blank lines. As soon as you scan a product, Shortcuts will add that item into the point of sale. If you don't have a barcode scanner or If you haven't gotten a chance to scan all of your products, you can always perform a product search by pressing F3 on your keyboard. So we're actually going to do that. I'm going to bring up a customer into the point of sale, and we're going to add a product. So in Shortcuts, I'll bring in one of my customers. I'll say Rob here. He's about to check out. And I'll click one of the blank rows, and I'll say George did an upsell of a product. So I can click on a company, and that's on the left side of the screen. Click on a line that's in the center, and then click on a specific product, and that's on the right side of the screen. I can choose multiple items, so perhaps I'm going to go to Bluebeards as well and get some beard wash, and go to American Crew and get a daily shampoo. And there they all are. If a customer says they don't want a certain product, of course you can select the quantity and change that to 0. Now, if an employee did not recommend a specific product and they should not be receiving credit for this, whether it's their commission or not, on the left side, where you have the staff member names. So if George performed the service, but the customer just grabbed 2 random products off the shelf, then he doesn't necessarily get the credit. Instead, the business gets the credit for that. I hope that makes sense for everybody. So let's go back. So adding products, choosing services, changing who gets the credit for that. If I was on this window, and I'm going to give you an actual example, I press F3 on my keyboard. So I don't have my barcode scanner, but I do know the name of the product. I can press F3 and start typing the name of the specific product I'm looking for, natural shampoo. And there it is. So it's very easy to add products right into the point of sale, whether you have a scanner or not. Okay, let's continue. So your payment types. So on the bottom left corner are where you tell Shortcuts what are your payment types. Now, depending on your business, you may not have all of these available. If you are an enterprise customer, some of these may be blocked. If you are a barbershop or a nail salon that only deals in cash, then maybe cash is the only option that you have. But some of these include cash, checks, debit cards, credit cards, gift certificates, and accounts. So you can always tell Shortcuts how is the customer paying, whether you have an integrated credit card system or not. So if you're going to split a payment, if a customer is going to pay part of their bill in cash and part of it on their credit card, you can absolutely do that. You choose your payment type, your first payment type, and tell Shortcuts how much is put in that, and then you choose your second payment type, and Shortcuts will say, okay, this is the difference. Is that correct? Then you can go ahead and press done and end sale. So in this scenario, I said Shortcuts is going to put $20 in cash, and the rest is going to go on his Visa credit card. Now, if you had an integrated credit card system, Shortcuts will put the difference on the credit card. When you press confirmation, Shortcuts will then ask the customer to insert their card for whatever the difference is. So when you're working with discounts, so you'll actually notice Shortcuts has 2 different discount columns. There's a discount column and a discount button. They actually have 2 different purposes. If you press the $0 discount in the actual point of sale, then you're telling Shortcuts, I am only allowing a discount on one particular item, whether it's a service or whether it's a product. And these permissions are protected by security. So if you click a service, then Shortcuts does filter out and only shows you service discounts that you allow or product discounts that you allow. Now, if you press the discount button at the bottom of the screen, you're actually telling Shortcuts, I want to apply a discount on everything, every service and every product that the customer has. So be very careful when you're using discounts. Be very careful with the front desk and just remind them, if they're giving them a discount, they're only supposed to give it on certain services or products, usually with the customer bringing in a coupon or showing some sort of coupon on their phone. So of course, tracking and paying out tips. The majority of the salons, the spas, the barbershops we work with, they actually record tips. The customer pays the tip on a credit card, and then the staff gets that payout via cash from the register. So if you do not have an integrated credit card system, then you manually have to press the tip button and tell Shortcuts who is getting the tip, how the customer is paying, and what the tip is worth. If you do have an integrated credit card system, you don't necessarily press the tip button. The customer will press a button on the actual screen when they insert their credit card. So just keep that in mind. Shortcuts will allow you, whether you do or do not have an integrated credit card system, how much the tip is worth and how much to take out of the register for your staff. Grouping customers in the point of sale. So it's very easy to group clients together. The easiest way that I found is actually, if you're using the appointment book, always mark every member of a group as arrived. Shortcuts will not let you check out a group in the appointment book if not every member of the party is in. So make sure you arrive them first by pressing right click, and then you can check them out as a group. So to check out an actual group, let's actually do that in our demo environment. So I'm going to return to Shortcuts. I'm going to arrive a couple of these customers. So if I've arrived a few customers, I need to tell Shortcuts which members are checking out right now. I can go directly to the point of sale, and using the pull down menu at the top of the screen, normally I choose one person at a time. Instead, I'm going to choose group. And to put people in a group, I click the block to the left of their name. So Rob is in the group, and Ray is in the group, and Cardi is in the group. When I press done, Shortcuts gives me one total for all of these customers. So now only one person has to pay. But notice at the top of the screen, if I click the pull down menu, I can isolate one specific person in the group. Why do I have the ability to do this? Because if one member of the group decides they want to buy a product or two, then I need to tell Shortcuts which member of this group is going to get a specific product so that Shortcuts can save it into their history. Because remember, you're not really selling products to a group. You're telling Shortcuts what's the total that they're paying and how they're paying. Specific items, specific services go to specific people. So don't forget to tell Shortcuts, okay, Cardi, for example, also wants to buy some conditioner, daily conditioner. So I chose just her name from the pull down menu, and now I can return to my group of Rob, Ray, and Cardi. And now my group total has been updated. Okay, I hope that makes sense for everybody. If the group decides that they're going to each pay individually, then when I choose their name from the pull down list, the group, and I press remove client, Shortcuts doesn't remove the customers, it just breaks apart the group. So now Rob is his own customer, Ray is his own customer, and Cardi is her own customer. Okay, back to our presentation. So grouping clients and modifying a group. So you can always tell shortcuts one specific person is getting an add-on service or product. So other types of checkouts. So in the point of sale screen, you do have the ability to check out a walk-in customer or just a retail customer. Because sometimes you get a customer that walks in, they're not a regular, and they don't want to give you their name or number or any other personal information. They just want to get a bang trim and they're leaving. So in that case, you can check them out directly from the point of sale by choosing hashtag walk-in. You tell shortcuts who's the employee, what service did they perform, and that's it. Same thing for retail. If a customer just walks in off the street and they want to buy a product, then you can check them out directly in the point of sale. Processing a refund. Depending on your particular store, you may or you may not allow this. So you would actually choose a client directly in the point of sale, go to this customer's card and go to their history, isolate the item they want to get a refund on, right click and press refund. So shortcuts will move them into the point of sale and say, okay, this is the customer, this is the item that's going to be refunded, and it'll actually say the item is -1. That means the customer is returning the product. When you press end sale, shortcuts will ask, how is the customer getting their money back? Are they getting cash back? Are you putting money into their account? If it was an integrated credit card system, then shortcuts will know, put this money back on their card. And then what are you going to do with this product that the customer is returning? Are you going to put it back on your shelf or keep it out of your inventory? So gift certificates, sundry, these were things we didn't get a chance to expand on during the last point of sale training. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sundries, gift certificates, and accounts. So sundry is any income for the business that's not exactly a product or a service. Gift certificate is a perfect example. But sundries can also include things like chair rentals, booth rentals, deposits. So if a customer wants to leave money in their account that they can use in the future, for example, a parent comes in and says, I want to put $100 or $200 on my kid's account so that they can come in anytime after school and get a haircut. So you can also record that under account. So you tell shortcuts whether it's a gift certificate or an account, how much is it worth? And when you press end sale, shortcuts will record that information. So for gift certificates specifically, the customer chooses how much the certificate is worth, whether it's 25, 50, 100 or more. And then you tell shortcuts how are they paying for this, cash or credit usually. When you press end sale, shortcuts will ask you to record the number on that gift certificate. Usually it's a barcode number or a string of numbers. So now shortcuts will allow you to use that as a payment type in the future. So if a customer came in with a service and wanted to pay with a gift certificate, that little payment type is next to the credit card button. It looks like a little white paper with a stamp on it. So you would choose gift certificate and you would search for that particular barcode. And then shortcuts will take whatever amount is on there and apply it towards the sale. If the customer still had change left over on their gift certificate, then it will stay on the card until they completely use the amount. Accounts are very similar. A customer can say, I'm going to deposit money into an account. You tell shortcuts how much is it worth and how did the customer pay. Usually the employee doesn't get credit for the deposits, it's the business. So you enter the amount and you press end sale. Now shortcuts knows, okay, this customer, for example, has $100 in their account. When the customer returns and they want to pay with the money they've deposited, then you would choose their customer, and in the point of sale screen, you're going to see a green ledger that shows how much they have that they can use. In this scenario, $100. So the customer doesn't have to use all 100, they can just use part of it. So we would type in how much from their account are they using, and when we press end sale, any remaining balance is shown in the ledger. Now, you can also use accounts to record debt. So let's say one of your regular customers accidentally forgot their wallet. So if you know this person and you know this person's been there for years and it's okay, you can actually tell Shortcuts. Payment type is account. This customer owes me a certain amount. And this will show up as red in the customer's client card. So they owe you money. When they return, you can go to the point of sale, choose account, and then Shortcuts will remember how much they owe you for a previous service or product. Not every location uses gift certificates or uses accounts, so some of these instructions may not necessarily account for your business. So tracking BACKBAR. Of course, being able to do retail sales and is fine, but you also want to be able to track any professional items that your staff uses. Or if your staff pulls a retail product off the shelf, you want them to be able to track that as well. So in the point of sale, you would choose business as your customer, and business is the very first client in your client list. Business will be the employee that gets credit for using this product, and then you would scan or search for the products and check them all out. So what Shortcuts would advise is have a bin set aside, and every time your staff empties a bottle, then just put it in the bin. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, depending on how busy you are, you're just going to scan all of those products out so that your inventory is correct and up to date. If you're paying tips before the end of day, so before you do your final count, you want to take the cash out of the register that's marked for tips. So you can actually go to your reports under the employee category to the tips report, and you can view the report for that day. And Shortcuts will show you specifically how many employees are getting tips and what they're worth. So this is one report that's historically run before you perform an end of day. So make sure you go to Tools, Reports, the Employee category, Tips, and view the report for that day. So performing the end of day. Before we close out the register, I'm going to show you how to sell a series and then how to redeem a series. So a series in Shortcuts. Sometimes you have a service that you offer, let's say haircuts or shaves, for example. If the customer buys a series of 10 haircuts, they're actually paying for the price of 8 haircuts. They're getting 2 haircuts for free. So that is recorded under series. So I'm going to create a series. Again, this specific service or this specific option is not available on all Shortcuts. It may be controlled by security, or it may be controlled if you're an enterprise customer. But I'm going to create a series of executive cuts. And I'm going to tell Shortcuts, I have a series of 10 haircuts. Maybe I'm going to offer more than one series. So I'm going to label it series times 10. Normally this is $260, but I decide the customer is going to save 10% if they buy a series of 10. So instead, the final price is $234. Maybe I'm going to offer a second executive cut series, and this is a series of 5 haircuts. So I'm going to tell Shortcuts, there's 5 in this series, and they don't save 10%, they only save 5%. So of course, it makes sense if you buy more, if you buy the series of 10 than if you buy the series of 5, because the savings is much greater. So once I choose my service, I always need a customer that wants to buy that series. So Steve, for example, Steve comes in. He's one of my regulars and he hears about my series, so he wants to buy my series of 10. So I go right to the point of sale. I choose Steve and I say the business is going to get credit for this series that I'm selling. So I would go to Sundry, because remember, I forgot to exit Shortcuts and launch it again. So give me just a second. Okay, and I'll tell this to enable my online services later. So point of sale. So Steve was the person, right? So Steve Adams comes in. Business, it's getting credit for this transaction. I'm actually going to service, not sundry. And under service, I now have a brand new category, series. So is Steve interested in the series of 5 or the series of 10? He wants the series of 10. So I'll choose that and press done. So Shortcuts asks me, okay, this series costs $234. And Steve is going to pay that with a Visa. So I'll record it in the system and I'll press end sale. So now Shortcuts knows Steve has 10 possible executive haircuts he can use at any time when he comes in. So the next time he comes in, maybe it's this afternoon. He makes an appointment. I'm choosing Steve. He's one of my regular customers. In the middle of the screen, I have a brand new row, Outstanding Client Series. And Shortcuts is showing me he has 10 out of 10 executive cuts left. So I can still choose, maybe he's going to get a color service or something else, or he's just going to get one of his executive cuts. So I can book him in for that. And once the customer goes to checkout, it'll actually say this series is a redemption. So he doesn't have to pay because he paid in advance. So I can press end sale. And the next time he comes in, then Shortcut says, okay, he has 9 out of 10 left. So that's how you work with a series. So again, this is not necessarily a default option at every salon, at every site. So if you go and you check your setup button and you don't see it, it may not be permitted at your location. If you are a regular Shortcuts point of sale customer, not an enterprise customer, we may be able to enable this for you, but you'll have to speak with client services for that. Okay, or just give your customer care rep a call. So our end of day. So of course, at the end of each day, we want to make sure that you take any cash that was supposed to be a tip out. You've recorded your professional products. So you're going to go back to your transactions button and you're going to your end of day button. You'll choose which register you're about to balance. So you can actually group all of your registers together and just close them out at the same time. You're going to enter your cash, and depending on if you have an integrated credit card system, your credit card totals. Otherwise, your debit credit card totals will automatically be populated. So Shortcuts will remind you, did you choose the correct register? Was the float correct? Before you can continue, because as you continue, you're not allowed to go back and change the original float. So make sure any petty cash has been recorded. Any transfers for cash that were made before the end of day were also recorded. Shortcuts will show you what did it expect versus what did you collect. If you're over or under for any amount, you can tell Shortcuts, show me my transaction history or print me my receipts so I can double check that everything is correct. And then make your adjustments. So you do actually have the ability to go forwards and backwards, making those adjustments. Security is recording that information. So whoever is responsible for this, their name is attached to that end of day session and how many times did they go forwards and backwards, adjusting their count. If your account is off, even if it's by as little as a cent or a dollar, you need to leave a comment. Whoever that person is responsible for, that is recorded into their history. So maybe it's a simple mistake. A customer left change. They didn't leave it as a tip. They just left their money on the table. So that's the reason the count was off. So then Shortcut says, this is the amount if you're over on cash that you need to set aside for your deposit. If you were under in cash, then on the next screen, Shortcuts will say, how much do you have to add so that you can stay at your float for the next day. So the final screen shows you 3 of the most popular reports that you can actually run at the end of the day: your session till drawer balance, your trading summary, and your business log. Now, you don't have to print any of these reports. You can access them at any time, print them for any time period if you have permission to access reports. Some businesses like to see a trading summary with the deposit for the end of the night, so that depends on your location. So that is actually the start of day and end of day process. I know this is a very dense session. This is why we're recording it, so that you can review it later. How to check customers in and out, including walk-ins or retail, how to issue a refund, how to sell a series, gift certificates, and of course, tracking professional use products. So as dense as it was, there may have been something that you have a pressing question on. So that takes us to our next session. You can always sign up for our webinars on our webinar page, and of course, view previous webinars. But if you have any questions, we have a few moments to actually answer those. So on the right side of your screen, if you have your chat window or your question window available, go ahead and post your questions there. So I'll give you a moment. You're probably writing down a bunch of notes right now, so I'll give you a moment to post in a question. And of course, if you think of a question after the fact, you can always reach out to us on our helpline, on our Facebook page, and here, let me actually share with you our actual emails. So education@shortcuts.net, anything you think of after the fact or anything that's not necessarily related to today's presentation, you suddenly have a question on, go ahead and let us know. You can reach us on Facebook at Shortcuts North America, and of course our 800 number for our help desk. We are always available for you. So I'll give you just a few more moments. I'm checking the chat window and checking the questions window. All right. If nobody has a question, oh, somebody just asked a question. So let me scroll to the right side. So Deanna just asked a question. If you pre-sell a product, would you use the account? Pre-sale a product. Now, series does not cover products. It only covers services. But let's say in Deanna's example, she took a deposit because they were expecting a shipment of a new product. You would more likely put it into the customer's account, whatever that deposit was. And then once the product shows up, you would remove the money from their account for that specific product. So that's how you can track that. So that's a good question. And yes, you would more likely use account to just collect any money and have a record of it. And then Betty has a question. If an employee name is not in the system, but they provide a service, how can I make note of that so we will know it's her? So in this case, it might be an assistant or a chair renter, and you want to make sure that Shortcuts is recording this. Well, we want to make sure that if it is an actual employee, whether they're hourly, commission, whatever the case is, they should be in Shortcuts. We don't want just random people getting credit for not actually being there, not performing services. Perhaps to clarify, maybe you want to have an employee's name in there, but not have them available in the appointment book screen. So maybe you do have an assistant, but they should never be booked. They should never be in the appointment book. So I'm going to go to Shortcuts, and I'm going to go to Configuration Employees. So if I had a staff member, and we'll go to Matt, for example, normally on the right side near the bottom, Matt has a position on the appointment book. He's the number 4 person. But let's say Matt is an assistant. He should not be in the appointment book. He should not be getting credit for services or not be bookable for services. I can set his position to none. And I can also take him away from online booking. So for all intents and purposes, Matt does not show up on the regular appointment book. However, when I go to the point of sale and I'm checking a customer out, and perhaps Matt performed an add-on service, a shampoo or a rinse or something, I can add that as a line item, and I can manually choose Matt as the employee that performed it, even though his name doesn't show up in the appointment book. So that's one way of tracking it. Another potential way of tracking it is if you just want to write the name of this person, then usually you would record that important information in the customer's card. So every client has a visit, has a history, and at the bottom, you can always press new and add notes to that particular visit. So I can press new and say, Matt did the rinse or Matt did the blow dry on this visit. So I have it in my notes. So the downside is that is not being recorded in the point of sale. That is not being recorded in the transaction screen. So it's tricky to record details unless the person is actually in Shortcut's point of sale. I would advise, like I showed for Matt, don't show them on the appointment book. Do not make them available for online booking. But at the point of sale, you want to have some sort of service or even sundry so that you can record a visit for a staff member. Right? I hope that helps with your question, Betty. Okay, does anybody else have any questions on point of sale or recording those transactions? And I'll go back to the appointment screen. And I'm actually going to close out a transaction. So I'm going to group those people, Rob and Cardi and Ray. And they paid split payment, 100 in cash, and the rest on a Visa card. And now I can end my day. End of day, that's my register. I have to put my totals in. And how much should I have in there? 180. So I need to deposit $80 tonight. And that's it. My register is closed. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, you can go ahead and email us if you think of something after the fact. I'm going to pause recording on this, and once it's converted, we will be emailing you the link a little bit later today. Thank you for attending today's refresher on the point of sale. As always, it's been a pleasure, and you're always welcome to submit new topics if you think there's something important we should cover. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next session.